The hum of the vacuum cleaner drowned out the end of class. Marcus Hale moved slowly across the mat, the smell of sweat and disinfectant thick in the air. Fluorescent lights buzzed above him, harsh and white, reflecting off the thin film of moisture on the gym floor. Every movement was deliberate: wipe, turn, rinse, squeeze. It was his ritual, quiet and precise, a way of keeping the ghosts still. He was halfway down the row when the laughter started. "Hey, janitor, you missed a spot." The voice came from the center of the mat. Cole Riker, head instructor, stood tall in his black G, belt perfectly tied, his grin sharp under the lights. Around him, 8 students lingered, still sweaty from their drills, the night's energy refusing to die down. Marcus kept wiping. Almost done. Sear. Cole tilted his head, sensing weakness like a shark catching blood. "Sir," he repeated, laughing for the crowd. "You hear that? The man calls me sir. Guess he knows his place." A few students chuckled, others didn't. One, a young woman named Sarah, watched quietly from the corner, phone still in her hand, from recording earlier drills. Cole's voice filled the room again. "Come on, Marcus. You ever trained before? Show the class something. Quick demonstration. Nothing serious." Marcus straightened slowly, the mop squeaking as it slid into the bucket. "Not my place, Mr. A.T. Riker. Just cleaning up so you can close." Cole's grin widened. "Not your place. That's the point." He stepped forward, bare feet slapping against the mat. "You work here. You're part of the environment, and this environment teaches respect." He raised his voice for the students. "Watch closely. Everyone. This is why we train to rise above ordinary life." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He had heard those same words, or close enough, 20 years ago, in a ring surrounded by cameras, back when words like respect were used to justify humiliation. He exhaled. "Please," he said softly, "let me finish my work." Cole leaned closer, eyes bright with cruelty. "What's wrong? Afraid of a little sparring? I'll even take it easy on you." Sarah lowered her phone. "Zenze, maybe it's late. We can sit down." "Sarah," Cole's tone sliced the air, "you'll learn something valuable." Marcus glanced at her, saw the discomfort in her eyes. The same look his daughter wore when someone mocked her accent in class. The same helpless shame. He placed the mop against the wall. "I don't want trouble," he said. Cole laughed. "Then you shouldn't have looked at me like that." Marcus blinked. "Like what? Like you've seen something I haven't." Silence spread, slow and heavy. The students shifted uneasily. Cole raised his hands. Theatrical. "All right, people. Lesson time." The difference between discipline and disorder, between fighter and cleaner. He faced Marcus, adopting his fighting stance. "Ready?" Marcus didn't move. He only looked at Cole, eyes calm, hands still at his sides. "Come on," Cole taunted. "Show them how a mop handles a real fighter." The laughter came again, thinner this time. Sarah turned on her camera, almost by instinct. The diode light blinked red, recording. Cole fainted left. Testing. Marcus didn't react. Then the instructor reached out. A light shove on the shoulder, meant to provoke, to prove dominance. The shove landed, but Marcus didn't budge. It was like pressing against stone. Cole froze, feeling the resistance. Something shifted behind Marcus's stillness. A quiet focus, the kind that can't be taught in dojos or seminars. He inhaled. The room seemed to narrow, the buzz of the lights dimming. Cole's smirk faltered. "You sure you want this?" Marcus asked, almost gently. Cole sneered. "Oh, I want it." He swung a quick jab meant for show, but Marcus's hand moved faster, catching the wrist and guiding it downward with effortless precision. Cole's balance broke. His body followed the motion like a puppet cut from its strings. There was no sound except the dull thud of his body hitting the mat. A gasp rippled through the students. Cole lay flat, blinking up at the ceiling. For a moment, he didn't seem to understand what had happened. Then pride returned like a mask. He pushed himself up. "Lucky move," he muttered. Marcus stepped back. "Lesson's over. Please apologize to your students for turning their mat into a circus." The calm in his voice was colder than anger. Cole tried to laugh, but the sound broke halfway. "You think you won something?" Sarah's phone kept recording, unnoticed. The red diode blinked, the only pulse in the room. Marcus reached for his mop again. "No, Seer," he said quietly. "I just cleaned the floor." He wrung the mop head, the water dripping in slow rhythm, each drop echoing like seconds before a storm. Cole stood motionless, breathing hard, face flushed. One student whispered, "Did you see that?" Another murmured. He barely moved. Cole caught the whispers. "Enough," he barked, forcing control back into his voice. Class dismissed. The students scattered, uneasy. Sarah lingered near the door, watching Marcus pack up. "That was—" she started, but couldn't finish. He looked at her, eyes tired. Record still running. She glanced down, startled the diode, still glowing red. "Oh yeah." She stopped the video. A small click. "Keep it," Marcus said. "Might need it someday." She hesitated, sensing he wasn't talking about fighting. When everyone left, the gym went quiet. The hum returned. Marcus filled his bucket, wiped the mat again. Moving through the spot where Cole had fallen, there was a faint outline of sweat and pride left behind. He scrubbed until it disappeared. Outside, wind pressed against the windows, rattling the glass. The city lights blinked like 1,000 red diodes across the night, indifferent, recording everything. Marcus rinsed the mop, twisted it dry, and leaned it in the corner. His reflection in the window looked older than he felt gray at the temples. Shoulders stooped from years of silence. He reached into his pocket, unwrapped another peppermint, and let it dissolve on his tongue. The cool burn filled his mouth, clearing the taste of bleach and humiliation. From the street below came the sound of a car horn, a shout, then nothing. He turned off the lights, one by one. Each switch made the same small, final sound click. When the last light went out, the red diode of Sarah's camera glowed faintly from the counter where she had left it, recording light still blinking. Unseen. Outside, rain began to fall, gentle at first, then harder, streaking the window like static. Marcus watched it for a long moment before whispering to no one. Clean floor, clean conscience. He closed the door behind him. The diode blinked once more in the darkness, then stopped. Morning opened like a bruised purple light. Thin rain, the city smelling of wet dust. Marcus woke to the quiet buzz of his phone. No ringtone, just the vibration of trouble finding a pocket. On the screen, a flood of links, a fire hose of outrage. The thumbnail showed a black G and a man on his back. The title, swollen with confidence, "Live, Janitor Floor Sensei." He didn't press play. He didn't have to. The comments wrote themselves. He poured coffee that had learned to taste like compromise. The apartment held the night's chill. The radiator sighed but gave nothing. He chewed a peppermint to keep steady and watched rain tap the window in small, impatient fingers. Nia shuffled out of her room, hoodie up, sleep still clinging to her. "You saw it?" she asked. "I saw the text," he said. She took the mug from his hand, sipped, made a face. "This coffee hates people. It's loyal," he said. Her phone lit. She didn't unlock it. "It's everywhere," she said. He nodded. "Eat something." "Peppermint isn't food," she said. "It's a tool," he said, and the line tried to smile and fail. In the hallway, A neighbor's TV carried a morning show voice. A shocking altercation caught live raises questions about violence in gyms. Someone laughed where a laugh didn't belong. Nia set the mug down. "Do I go to school?" she asked. "You go," he said. "You do your work. I'll do mine." She zipped her hoodie and touched his sleeve. "Quick." "You didn't hit him," she said. "I know," he said. "That should matter," she said. "It will," he said, and heard the future argue. The gym wore worry. A crowd stood on the sidewalk, phones out, faces lit by screens too close to their eyes. The sign over the door looked smaller than yesterday. Olivia unlocked the deadbolt with the patience of a safecracker. Inside, she told him, "Back way." He cut through the alley, slipped through a service door, and found Theo at the front desk. Jaw clenched, hands on a stack of clipboards like a dam. Lena was already at a computer, hair knotted, eyes bloodshot from a night that hadn't ended. "They cut the top," she said without turning. "Diodes gone." "Audio?" he asked. "Starts late," she said, like a memory that lies. Theo swallowed. "The platform says live." "End of." "They don't know live," Lena said. "They know views." Olivia set a sheet of paper on the counter like a warrant. "Media viewing protocol. Names, times, id, no copies." Below it, another page. Evidence integrity statement hash values. She taped both to the glass facing the street. Tape hissed in the quiet. The page lay flat, a small shield nobody had asked for and everybody needed. Through the door, a woman in a trench coat jabbed a mic forward. "Do you condone violence from staff?" she shouted. Behind her, a man lifted his phone, half-turned, making sure his own face stayed inside his indignation. Olivia didn't open the door. "We follow procedure," she said, voice even. "We post truth. You can read." "Did he attack you?" the woman called to Marcus. "My name is on the sign-in sheet," he said. "That matters today." She made a face confused, annoyed like someone given a tool they didn't recognize. Carmen arrived with a coat under an umbrella that had outgrown patience. She set a legal pad on the desk. Water dripped from its edge, then stopped. "We need the original," she said to Lena. "I'll pull the DVR," Lena said. "SD out. Hash it. Lock it. Chain of custody." Carmen said. "Every link," Lena said. Theo cleared his throat. "There's a man outside with a sponsor badge," he said. "Wants to speak to Mr. Riker." Olivia's mouth thinned. "Of course he does." Cole walked in from the back, like a man walking onto a stage he hadn't built. He wore a different gi. "No stains, no sweat." "What's the plan?" he asked. "Procedure," Carmen said. "I need messaging." He said, "Counter-narrative. Calm the feed." Olivia pointed at the glass. "We have a narrative," she said. "Time. Hash. Consent." Cole shrugged. "No one reads paper," he said. "They watch." He flashed a smile at the room. It didn't catch. Outside, the sponsor rep checked his watch and pretended not to watch the phones. Cole stepped out to greet him. The door shut behind them with a sound that wanted to be polite and failed. Lena slid a card from the DVR with tweezers, labeled a clear sleeve with time and initials. She didn't speak as she wrote. The permanent marker squeaked like a small distress call. She handed the sleeve to Carmen. Carmen signed the flap. Theo countersigned. "You want a copy on an air-gapped?" Lena asked. "Make two," Carmen said. "One for review, one to bury." The air smelled like toner and wet wool and the ghost of disinfectant. A kid pressed his nose to the glass and stopped when he saw grown-ups pretending not to be afraid. Olivia lifted the blinds halfway. Light came in with its own opinion. She caught Marcus's eye. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm working," he said. She nodded. "Same." The sponsor rep left in a hurry, rain freckling his jacket. Cole came back with his jaw set and his smile locked. "They're concerned," he said. "They funded your concern," Carmen said. Cole leaned on the counter. "They want me to go live at 1, he said. "Address it." Reclaimed tone. "Don't," Carmen said. "They'll pull money," he said. "Then they pull it," she said. He looked at Marcus. "You did this," he said. Too loud. Marcus shook his head. "You did this," he said. Softer. Cole straightened. "I built this place," he said. "I won't let a custodian tear it down." Olivia's face didn't change. "Janitor," she said. "The word is janitor." Cole turned away. School hallways had a pressure no gym could train for. Nia felt it gather and lean. A boy trailed her with his camera at hip level, the lens pretending to look at the lockers. "Smile," he said. "You're famous." She kept walking. The fluorescent hum felt louder than yesterday. Her shoes squeaked on a wet spot somebody hadn't claimed. At lunch, 2 girls pressed a screen between hamburger wrappers. "That him," one whispered. The other laughed too hard. The way people laugh to stay in a group. Nia opened her locker. A sheet of paper fluttered out, ink bleeding a little from rain or bad toner. "Keep your thug in check." It didn't even know how to be original. She photographed it. She slid it into a Ziploc from her backpack, wrote the time on the top with a dry erase marker meant for math. She sealed the bag with a click that sounded like a choice. Her counselor came around the corner, eyes kind, hands full of form. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm doing procedure," Nia said. The counselor blinked. "Do you want to talk later?" Nia said, voice steady. "Right now, I want a receipt." At noon, the platform pushed the clip to a trending strip no human being could resist. The banner said "Live," though the video, frozen in its assumptions, had been born hours ago. Chat flooded with certainty. Someone added slow motion. Someone added music. Someone added a voiceover with a southern accent, and a moral lesson that couldn't carry its own weight. Cole went live at 1 from a room too bright to be honest. He wore teaching face. He said words like community and discipline and model. He didn't say crop. He didn't say brand. "Men like me build structure," he said. "Men like him threaten it." A call-in host somewhere asked if the janitor had a record. A different show used a still of Marcus's hands. They didn't show the mop. Lena filed a takedown with a citation to the hash. She attached the page, taped to the glass, as if paper could applaud. The platform replied with an emoji. A different platform asked her to upload the sun and swear to it. Theo printed another copy of the evidence integrity statement. He taped it to the inside of the door where the handle touched it. If you wanted to enter, you had to brush the truth. Olivia shut the office door and called the insurance company. She didn't raise her voice. She adjusted percentages in their heads with verbs. When she hung up, she wrote a word on a sticky note and stuck it to the phone. Logged. Marcus returned to the mat. He stacked pads, aligned cones, made order where order could continue. A woman eased her child through the door and asked, "Is it safe?" "What are we asking?" he said. She caught it. "Are you practicing consent?" "We are," he said. "Good," she said. And they both pretended it was enough for today. Night fell wrong. The rain had gone. Air felt hollow, like a room after music. The apartment swallowed their footsteps. The radiator made a tired noise and slept. They ate in silence. The TV talked to itself with the sound off. Nia scrolled, then stopped scrolling. She looked at him across the table as if he were further away than the room allowed. "I told Miss Chavez," she said. "I bagged the paper." "Good," he said. "She asked if you'd hit him again." She said. "What did you say?" he asked. "That you didn't hit him the first time," she said. He let out a breath with shape. She glanced toward the window, then back at him. "They think you're dangerous," she said. I am, he said. Just not the way they mean. She folded her hands, unfolded them. You want me to stay home tomorrow? No, he said. I want you to know how to stay. How? She asked. Ask. Agree. Thank, he said. Same as class. She rolled her eyes, then smiled a little. You're a poster, she said. I'm a mop, he said. She laughed, honest and quick. The room liked it. A car idled outside. Engine low. Patient. It revved once, then keyed. Somewhere a door slammed. Somewhere a person decided not to think twice. The first sound was glass, a high note breaking. The second was air kissing their feet. Down, he said. They dropped as if the floor had asked nicely. The rock hit the counter, rolled, and settled against the baseboard like it belonged. The cold moved through the room like a rumor. The note taped to the stone was short and lazy. Stay where you belong. Black marker, block letters. Courage borrowed. Nia's phone was already recording. She kept her breath out of the mic. She moved slow, lens panning from broken to throne, from window to floor. The timestamp burned in the corner. She whispered the date. She whispered the hour. She didn't whisper sorry. Don't touch, he said. I know, she said. He turned off the lamp nearest the window. Darkness settled between them and outside. Thick enough to feel. He called, voice low, giving their address to a system that sometimes remembered them and sometimes didn't. He said words in the order the dispatcher preferred. Name, event, no injuries, no weapons seen, request patrol. He spelled their last name without being asked. They waited in the quiet, wind pushing at the plastic shade. He looked at the photo on the shelf, Kesha's grin, an arm thrown careless across his shoulders. The frame had fallen sideways. The glass had cracked her mouth into two separate ideas of joy. He didn't touch it. He pressed his tongue to the roof of his mouth and counted to 4. He held for 4. He let it go. Whatever this is, Nia said, not looking at him, we're not the ones who started it. No, he said. But we're going to finish it, she said. He let the lines sit in the room for a breath. We're going to document it, he said. Sirens sounded far away, and then not. Blue light hiccuped across the ceiling. In the doorway, the hall smelled like hallway. He put a peppermint on his tongue, sucked the cold into his chest, and felt the sugar cut the metal taste. The wrapper lay on the table, folded into a neat square, a small coin he could spend when the night asked for proof. He looked at the cracked photo again and made a note in his head. 2 truths, the one you bag, the one you frame. Outside, a camera diode blinked over the stoop, faithful and red. It watched the hallway breathe. It didn't soothe. It recorded. The apartment smelled like wet plaster and cold coffee. Evidence markers glowed pale on the floor like tiny tents at a bad campsite. Sergeant Ross crouched by the rock. He wore gloves, the color of cave water, and worked without commentary. Overview photo. Detail. Alternate angle. The camera's flash thinned the room. Nia stood near the hallway, arms folded, Ziploc bag held like a pass. Marcus kept out of the path, eyes on the frame he'd set upright without touching the broken glass inside. Ross slid the rock into a paper evidence bag, folded the lip, taped it with a strip that shouted, "Void," when violated. "Chain starts here," he said, pen poised. Marcus signed. Nia signed as witness. Hands steady, letters careful. "You'll get a number," Ross said. "If someone tries this again, they get a number." 2. Doorbell cam, Marcus asked. Card pull. Cloud requested. Ross said, "Don't delete anything. That's not advice. That's survival." He looked around, not at the damage but at the air. "You know who sent it?" he asked. Marcus shook his head. "Just the handwriting of a coward." Ross grunted. "That handwriting has friends." He stood, joints popping softly. "We'll be in touch." After he left, Silence climbed back onto the furniture. The taped plastic over the window rasped when wind found it. Naya set the Ziploc on the table next to the peppermint wrapper Marcus had folded into a square. 2 small documents. Same intent. I'm going to school, she said. He nodded. Procedure. She tucked the bag into her backpack like homework, then paused, eyes on the crack across Kesha's smile. We'll fix her mouth, she said. 2 truths, he said. 1 for shelves. She left, the door whispering closed. At the gym, morning light showed up without deciding what kind of day it wanted. Lena had already cleared a space on the front desk and laid out a Pelican case. 2 laptops. One labeled air-gapped with blue tape and a roll of tamper-evident seals. Theo wiped the counter a second time, then stopped himself from doing it a third. Carmen arrived with coffee in a cup that meant war. She flipped open her legal pad, the paper dotted with names, times, arrows. We pull the DVR first, she said. Primary evidence. We document the room. We announce time allowed on camera. Lena pointed to the ceiling camera. The diode winked. Patient. We have 2 angles, she said. Lobby and mat. Olivia stepped out of her office. And a crowd, she added, nodding to the window. A polite cluster had formed on the sidewalk. Neighbors, parents. A reporter with hair that didn't move in the weather. The evidence integrity statement taped to the glass had collected fingerprints through the night. We do it anyway, Carmen said. Truth doesn't need privacy. It needs process. Lena snapped on nitrile gloves. Theo held a clear sleeve open. She unscrewed the DVR bay with a screwdriver that clicked lightly on each screw, counted them under her breath, and slid the SD card out with tweezers. Sec, cam, 2140. She read. She held it up so Olivia could see. Dates right. Theo read the time off the wall clock and set it into Lena's phone. 9:14. 22 seconds. He said, Pacific. The room kept that time like a vow. Carmen opened the Pelican case and removed 2 tamper bags. She wrote labels with block letters that would survive argument. SD primary pulled 0914 on 1. Secondary. Dup. 0916 on the other. She handed the primary to Lena, who slid the card inside, sealed it, and signed across the tape. Theo countersigned. No one raised their voice. Hash. Carmen asked. On the gap, Lena said. She inserted the duplicate into the air-gapped laptop and typed with a rhythm that made music of machine. Sha. 256 sum threw a string of characters onto the screen, like a confession. 64 symbols that couldn't lie without evidencing the lie. She printed it. Theo stapled it to a form titled Chain Register. The staple made a small metal bite. Click. Carmen looked toward the door. Through the glass, Cole spoke into a phone with a sponsor rep at his elbow. His mouth moved fast. His eyes didn't look in. The rep's badge bounced against his chest like a tiny shield. Maintenance hold, Theo said, reading an email. From the platform, they froze creator edits for 5 hours. Olivia pinched the bridge of her nose. Translation. They're stopping changes. Lena said, not admitting anything, not removing anything. Carmen exhaled. Fine. We work our lane. Olivia set a second sheet on the glass, next to the first media viewing protocol witness access. She underlined the words, no copies and on-site only, with a pen that didn't apologize. If they want to see, she said to nobody and everybody. They come inside and sign their name. A parent pushed through the door with a child holding a too big backpack. We read the page, she said. We're staying. Welcome, Olivia said, and meant it. They screened the footage in the office with the blinds down but not closed. The room held light in a way that made it honest. Lena set the laptop on a low table, plugged in the cable that felt too fragile for what it carried, and hit play. No commentary. The lobby angle first wide shot, red diode, bright like a conscience. Then the matte angle closer. Human. The shove, the balance break, the fall that sounded like punctuation. None of it surprised anyone in the room. The surprise had lived somewhere else, and now felt homeless. "Stop there," Carmen said softly. Lena froze the frame. The diode was visible in the upper corner like a witness. Carmen photographed the screen with her phone, the way lawyers photograph rain. "If they claim we added it," she said, "we show the chain and the device's serial." Theo flipped to a form labeled Device Inventory and wrote down the camera's model and serial, then opened a cabinet, found the paper he'd already prepared, and smiled a guilty smile when he realized he'd been right to be anxious. Olivia scanned the room with the custody of a ship's captain. "Marcus," she said, "you don't have to be here for this." "I know," he said, hands at his sides. "I'm choosing to be here for this." Carmen nodded. "Small. Choice matters." She turned to Lena. "We'll prep a DMCA with the hash and the creation time. Campaign move. Attach platform email, acknowledging receipt of the last notice." Olivia glanced toward the lobby. Two reporters had moved closer to the glass, reading the hash page like it was a menu. Outside, Cole's sponsor rep made a call. The word optics passed his lips and evaporated. Theo's phone chimed. He frowned. "We have a maintenance ticket placed on our public page," he said. "From a third party. Requests. Removal pending review. They want us to blink." Carmen said, "We don't blink. We breathe." Marcus stepped into the hall, the narrow space smelling of lemon cleaner and old tape adhesive. He leaned his shoulder against the cool cinder block and pressed his tongue to the roof of his mouth for 4, held for 4. "Let go." He could hear Lena's keys through the door like small birds hopping on a wire. A kid from the first class of the day walked by in a gi too big for him, belt trailing. Marcus stopped him with 2 fingers and a smile. "Tie it like this," he said, hands moving slow, the knot settling into itself. The boy looked at him like a secret had been shared. "Do we still spar?" the boy asked. "We still ask," Marcus said. The boy repeated, trying the words on like shoes. By noon, the platform answered, "We are reviewing." The sentence was as helpful as a screen door in a flood. A different platform sent an auto-approval of a counter notice that made Carmen laugh once. "Sharp. Attach the court reporter invoice from last time," she said to Lena. "Apparently money is how language learns." Theo printed the hash page again and taped a copy at kid-eye level. "In case they like to read," he said to no one, and someone's kid did, mouthing numbers like a spell. Cole breezed in, wind at his back. "Phone hot. I'm going live," he announced. "We can't let them own this." "Own what?" Olivia asked. "The story," he said. "It's evidence." Carmen said, "It doesn't belong to you." He smiled like a warning. "It belongs to whoever tells it." Marcus looked at him the way you look at a path that leads to a hole you've already fallen in once. "Words are heavy," he said. "You keep throwing them like rocks." Cole stared. "You're going to regret this," he said. Olivia stepped between them without touching either. "We're open for class," she said in a tone that made her 15 years older and the wall stronger. "If you want to teach, teach consent. If you want to talk, buy your own building." Cole left with air on his heels. Afternoon light made the hash page a mirror. A teenager pressed her face to the glass and read the line of numbers aloud like a dare. The red diode blinked above her head in the lobby ceiling. Indifferent to interest, Carmen finished the takedown packet and slid it into an envelope with a print of the log. She wrote across the seam, "File 12, 43 p.m. initialed CW, LP, TG. She placed it in the pelican case and snapped the latches. Click, click. The sound was modest and full of itself. Two small doors closing in the right order. Insurance, Olivia asked. They'll pay for glass if a police case exists, Carmen said. Not for dignity. Dignity's on us, Olivia said. Always, Carmen said. Lena powered down the air-gapped laptop and coiled its cord with the affection of a person who likes machines. I'll write a short report, she said. No adjectives. Theo nodded. I'll make a sign for parents. He wrote ask, agree, thank on a sheet of printer paper and taped it beside the class schedule. Tape hissed. The page hung slightly crooked. He adjusted it until the corners were square to the frame. Marcus checked the door lock with his palm. The metal was cool, a little damp from breath. He turned the dial on the nearest locker, 37 right, past 0, 70 and left, 3 right. The latch consented. Click. He closed it and stood with his hand on the door until the temperature under his palm matched his skin. Through the wall, he heard a child laugh, unafraid, and someone else, a parent, he guessed, take a breath, like a person allows after a doctor says, a thing isn't cancer. He looked at the hash page one more time, numbers marching like a quiet army, and thought of Nia's Ziploc, Ross's bag, the broken smile in the frame. 2 truths. 3. If you count the one the body keeps, class at 4, Olivia said behind him. I'll mop at 3:58. He said. She smiled the smallest amount. Ritual is a kind of prayer, she said. Or a promise, he said. The diode blinked, small and certain, and the room kept doing what rooms do when people decide to behave as if truth has weight. He put a peppermint on his tongue and tasted the coal. It made the air sharper, the lines straighter. The day something you could carry without dropping. The podium had been borrowed from a community theater. It wobbled if you touched it wrong. Cole touched it wrong. He faced cameras lined 3 deep, glass eyes slick with studio lights, brought in on wheeled stands. A vinyl backdrop read Riker Combat Discipline, Community, Excellence. Someone had ironed the creases halfway. Thank you for coming, he began, voice warmed to a public temperature. We believe in transparency. The sponsor rep stood off to his left, 10 badge on a lanyard, earpiece braided like something tactical. He watched the room as if danger wore questions. A row of students in clean get-ups filled the first seats like props that breathed. Cole lifted his chin. Regarding the incident, he said, what you saw was a misunderstanding taken out of context. Our staff is trained. Our standards are high. Hands rose. A boom mic drifted forward. Was the video live? A reporter asked. Our community streams frequently, he said. Live is a format, not a verdict. The sponsor shifted his weight. The podium wobbled again. Did your staff initiate contact? Another voice called. Cole smiled like pain. I initiated a teaching moment, he said. Sometimes learning looks uncomfortable. The sponsor's eyes slid to a clock above the door. 47 minutes until the slot they'd paid a station for. He gave a micro nod that read, Titan. In the second row, Sarah held her phone low, camera running wide angle, steady hands. She didn't chase faces. She recorded the room listening to itself. Carmen slipped in along the wall, umbrella dripping to a neat wet triangle beside her shoe. She didn't push forward. She took a spot where exit signs could see her and set a legal pad on her palm like a tray. The pages had lines, names, times. She wrote another time. The question that popped the room came from a reporter with thunder in her throat. Was the diode visible? She asked. Cole blinked. The what? The camera's recording light, she said. Was it visible in the original? The sponsor rep's jaw flexed. A tick that thought it was invisible. We don't obsess over diodes. Cole said, small laugh. We obsess over discipline. Someone behind him coughed. The podium wobbled, as if agreeing with gravity. Sarah's stream comments climbed in a ribbon. Ask about the crop. Show the top of the frame. Who edits live? She didn't read them. She kept the image honest, a wide rectangle with time in the corner and nothing to prove. A producer at the back lifted a hand. We'd like you to play the clip, he said. For clarity, Cole nodded to a volunteer. The house lights dropped to an anxious dim. A screen bloomed at stage right. The cropped angle, banner, live immaculate. Audio starting after air could have told the truth. Laughter in the clip replaced now by room air. The shove missing. The diode cut off like a bad haircut. Carmen watched once, then turned her head and watched the sponsor instead. His eyes stayed on the room, not the screen, counting how many people decided to like him today. Cole swallowed his urge to grin at himself on the wall. There, he said when it ended, no attack, no intent to harm. We are the injured party. A hand went up again, the Thunder Woman. Can we see the uncut? She asked. Cole kept his smile, just smaller. We cannot share raw training footage without consent, he said smoothly. Privacy is not optional. Carmen didn't raise her hand. Is that why you labeled a pre-render live? She asked. Neutral as paperwork. Several heads turned not because of the content, because of the temperature. The sponsor rep's smile stayed in place. The way hotel art stays on a wall, with one nail bent. Cole's voice cooled. Who are you? He asked. Counsel, Carmen said. For the gym. He regained brightness by force. Then you know policy, he said. And the law? Do you have a subpoena to accompany that tone? Not today, she said. Pleasant. Just metadata. A few cameras pivoted reflexively toward her, hunting the sentence that would clip without consent. She had none to give. She reached into her bag and lifted a manila folder an inch, enough to suggest, not enough to satisfy. The sponsor's eyes ticked to it. Then away. Then back. On Sarah's screen, comments stuttered as connection dropped to 1 bar. She shifted a step to the left. The signal returned. She framed the sponsor rep and his badge in the corner of Cole's next sentence. We will host an open mat this weekend, Cole said. Community engagement heals misunderstanding. You charging admission, someone said from the back. The sponsor cut a look that would price oxygen. Carmen slid to the aisle. A guard put a hand up like a stop sign that had practiced. She smiled and waited without moving. Waiting is pressure if you do it right. Coach, an older reporter said, softening deliberately. Do you regret your choice of words to that employee? Cole blinked. The word employee landing with awkward weight. We maintain professional standards, he said. We're a merit culture. Titles matter. And janitor is a title, Carmen said without looking at him. Then, to the room. Title don't assign cons. The sponsor rep leaned into the podium shadow. Coach Riker will take no further questions, he said, voice primed for termination letters. A statement will be emailed. Lights came up. The crowd's murmur rose. A soft hurricane requests. Complaints. The sound of phones looking for upload. Sarah stayed in her seat. She kept filming as people stood. Carmen turned once, found Sarah through a line of shoulders, and gave her the small nod adults allow themselves when teenagers are braver. Back at the gym, the air smelled like rain. In a building that had outlived its first purpose, a stack of flyers bled ink on the front desk. Ask, agree, thank, corners curling, tape loosening in the humidity. Marcus knelt in the lobby, a rag in his hand, a spray bottle at his knee. A vandal's message from earlier, black and blunt, ghosted on the tile near the door where the rain hadn't reached. Has sprayed. The letters blurred, then stretched into something like smoke. He set the rag on it and pressed. The overhead diode blinked red, reflected in the blooming water at his hand. One point of truth split into a dozen wobbly ones. He watched it fracture and reassemble as his wrist moved. The room hummed. The traffic outside made a wet whisper on asphalt. The door chimed. Olivia, damp coat, eyes dry. She set a folder on the counter, then glanced down to the floor. Permanent marker, she asked. Temporary message, he said. We should stencil pages on the sidewalk, she said. Spare them the trip to the glass. People don't come for reading, he said. They leave with it, she said. He wrung the rag. The water fell into the bucket thin stream. Bright smell. He thought of the crack through a grin on a shelf. Two truths. He pressed the cloth again. Behind them, Lena's fingers blurred on a keyboard. She had parked in the office hours ago and hadn't noticed the clock tick toward evening. The air-gapped laptop sat asleep. Faithful. On the networked machine, a grid of time codes shone like coordinates to a place only law could find. She clicked open a metadata pane and leaned closer. Neck bent, breath held. The encode time stared back like a face on a bus you recognize too late. She opened the platform's public page in a second window, hovered on the word live in the clip's overlay, pulled the network inspector out like a stowed weapon, and watched headers declare themselves. She copied a UTC timestamp. She put it beside the local DVR's creation time on a blank line. 4 minutes. 26 seconds. Not an eternity. Not an accident. Her hand shook. Once the human response to numbers. Doing what numbers do, she took a photo of her screen. Printed. Signed the margin with LP. Wrote the time. Capped the pen. Uncapped it. And wrote the time again in numbers and words. Theo drifted in with a stack of consent forms. Parents are asking if we're okay, he said. Like we're a patient. We are, Olivia said. Lena. He asked. You look like you found a fire. She stood, paper in hand. They called the rain lightning, she said. We have the weather report. Carmen stepped through the office door as if summoned by a kind of paper gravity. Lena handed her the printout. Carmen read. Didn't smile. Didn't speak. She lifted her phone, photographed the page, then photographed the laptop screen, then the clock on the wall. Then the Pelican case's seal, chain of custody begins where memory ends. How sure? Olivia asked. As sure as 14 headers and a checksum, Lena said. As sure as time is rude. Carmen slid the paper into a sleeve and wrote on the tab, Stream Priren Delta Chater. Archelu. She underlined the delta. Send soft copies to my box, she said. Hard copies in the case. Will be polite and unkind. Theo fumbled with the consent stack. One sheet slid to the floor, landing face up at Marcus's feet. He picked it up, looked at the signature cramped letters, hopeful, and set it back on the pile with both hands, like returning a passport across a contested border. What's that mean? He asked Lena. It means live wasn't live, she said. They rehearsed honesty. Marcus nodded once. He lifted the bucket and stood. The rag left a clean oval where the words had tried to stay a silence in the shape of a shout. Then we rehearse. 2, he said. We rehearse telling the truth until it sounds like itself. The diode blinked above them, red and steady, reflected in the water that trembled in the bucket as he carried it away. Outside, the rain began again. Not hard, just enough to make the streetlights smear. Carmen capped her pen and tucked the sleeve under her arm like a small, legal animal that would bite the first hand to lie to it. Tomorrow, she said, to no one and everyone, we ask for the room with microphones and rules and chairs that don't wobble. Olivia said, chairs that don't wobble. Carmen agreed. Lena sat back down, opened a new document, and typed a title she'd already written in her head. Discrepancy in code versus stream start. She saved. Twice. The machine made no sound when it promised to remember. Sarah's video pinged in the gym's inbox a link to a long, unbroken stream of a man learning to speak without saying anything. Carmen flagged it. Theo printed the first page of comments and stuck it on the corkboard with a pushpin that squeaked. Marcus set the bucket in the closet and closed the door. The latch seated with a small mechanical consent. Click. The first alarm was smell. Thin. Sweet. Chemical wrong for a gym. Marcus caught it in the hallway as he locked the equipment closet. Rubber and bleach lived here. This was sharper, almost fruity, like anger pretending to be a candle. He turned toward the lobby. Air looked thicker. The diode over the entry flickered red through a smear. "Olivia," he called, already moving. She stepped out of the office with the day's deposit in a blue pouch. Her eyes tightened. "You smell that?" He didn't answer. He was at the door, hand on the handle, and the glass flashed orange in a pulse that made decisions for them. Heat crawled at ankle height, new and curious. "Back," he said. Something hissed outside. Then a shape hit the door frame and burst flame, licking up, lazy at first, then greedy as it found old tape adhesive. A bottleneck rolled in the threshold like a tossed coin. The cotton rag still smoked. Marcus grabbed the extinguisher from the bracket, yanked the pin, and pressed the lever. White powder bloomed from the nozzle, loud as hail. The lobby filled with winter. The fire lost its sentence. Olivia hit the door release. A wedge held it open an inch to vent heat without feeding it. She moved, like someone used to fighting with appliances. "Call it," she said, already dialing another number. "Fire," he told the dispatcher. "Address. Occupancy. Minor. Lobby. Extinguisher engaged." He heard himself keep it dry, as if dryness could spread. The sprinkler head above the door contemplated the world, and decided to help. A silver fuse popped. A bell trilled once, and thin streams fell like knitting needles. The burning rag hissed, then sulked. The flame shrunk to color, then memory. Everyone out. Olivia told the parents in the waiting chairs. The word "everyone" did the work. They filed past the dust like a parade of reluctance, hands on small shoulders. A boy looked back, eyes round, until Marcus snapped his fingers and smiled. The boy smiled back because that's how bridges work. Theo had the back door open, wet air shouldering in. Lena killed the HVAC from her laptop, fingers moving, with the economy of people who don't narrate. Outside, a person in a hoodie disappeared around the corner. Marcus noted height, shoes, filed it where he filed combinations and smells. The street held its breath, then exhaled sirens from 2 blocks away. Blue arrived with red, then white. A small engine and a larger one bracketed the curb. Firefighters flowed off them with a clank, like a sentence that didn't need verbs. "Where's the seat?" the captain asked, already scanning. "Door frame," Olivia said. "We put dry chem." Sprinkler went. They looked down at the glass, now latticed with crack. Powder blooming at the sill, a wet V scorched into paint low and wide. The investigator, a woman with hair braided tight to stay out of ash, knelt and pointed with a gloved finger. "Origin low," she murmured. "Accelerant present." She pulled a metal can from a bag, pinched the rag with tweezers, and fed it into the can like a snake handler. "Chain starts now," she said to Marcus, voice enough for the recorder on her shoulder. He nodded, hands behind his back, powdered to the wrist, like a baker with bad news. The captain checked the extinguisher's gauge. "Good pull," he said to nobody, which landed on the right body anyway. He radioed a reset for the riser and a silencing of the internal bells. Water dripped in a rhythm the building hadn't practiced. "Cameras?" the investigator asked. "Two." Lena said. Lobby and Matt. Air-gapped pull on request. Request, the woman said. Voluntary for now. Warrant, if we need to be rude. Lena nodded. We prefer polite. The investigator's nose creased at the air like a dog catching an old story. Citrus, she said. Gasoline cut with something to hide the ghost. Orange cleaner, Theo asked. Tentative. She smiled without humor. Arsonists love a theme, she said. A patrol officer's pen clicked as he entered names and times in a notebook that had seen too many curbs. Statement now or later, he asked Marcus. Now, Marcus said. They moved to the side, near the laminated class schedule. Powder had settled on the edges. It looked like winter on paper. The officer's questions came like stones in a river. Time, you noticed. Actions taken. Description of any person. Prior threats. Marcus answered without adjectives. The officer wrote without adverb. Through the open door, the red diode blinked in smoke, double in the glass shards. Patient as law. It watched the hinge and the frame and the way the wet mark on the wall pointed to its source, the way capital V calls attention to what a sentence deems important. Notice of preservation. Carmen asked, already pulling forms from her bag. She wrote the date and time twice, then slid the paper to the investigator. We're locking all footage and logs. You'll get a mirror copy, bagged and sealed. Once we generate the hash, the investigator nodded once. Good. Keeps everyone honest. The captain carried the blue deposit pouch to the office, safe, without asking deference to a different kind of fire. Olivia spun the dial, ear tilted to metal, then turned the handle until it accepted her certainty. Click. The sound was soft and domestic and, in context, ceremonial. Kids, the captain asked. Rescheduled. Olivia said. Parents saw enough action for one day. He grunted. Approval. We'll write it as attempted arson. Pending lab. He said. You'll get a report number. Put it in your insurance and your prayers. He and the investigator left them with a residue of citrus and bureaucracy. Lena hovered in the doorway with a pelican case halfway open. We pulling now? She asked. Pull now, Carmen said. Lobby first. Matt, if it saw the door. The tweezers took their time. The SD card slid into a sleeve. The sleeve breathed into a tamper bag. Lena read each step aloud. Date in full. To station up and to the left of the camera. The wall clock in the same frame as Marcus's powdered hands. Theo recorded with a phone held low, wide angle, sound catching the hum of vents and the syllables of a law that didn't love them but liked to be obeyed. Carmen initialed the seal. Olivia countersigned. The investigator added her badge number in the margin with a neatness that suggested she liked being believed. Outside, the crowd had turned into bystanders. A woman in a yoga jacket whispered insurance like a prayer. A man in a ball cap muttered false flag like a hobby. The sponsor rep appeared at the edge of the scene, looked horrified for the camera, then texted with his thumb until his screen looked less empathetic. Cole slid in behind him, patted the rep's shoulder like he owned it. His eyes did inventory damage. Audience. Opportunity. He found Marcus's face and held it a second too long. You okay? He asked. Loud. We're working. Marcus said. It meant yes and no. Cole nodded to the investigator. Do you need anything from me? Your distance, she said without inflection. He smiled like a man who could take advice. When the trucks left, the room exhaled. Powder coated the doormat, white against black letters that asked visitors to be nice. The scorch on the frame dried into a map of a continent no one wanted to visit. Theo swept gently, pushing the powder toward a pan, as if collecting flour after a broken recipe. Feels wrong to clean, he said. It's always right to clean. Marcus said. He tested the door hinge, latch, play in the catch. The metal had warmed and cooled in uneven ways. It complained but agreed. He locked it, then unlocked it, then locked it again until the click sounded like itself. Lena reappeared with a printout. Fresh ink sharp in the air, pulled the last 10 minutes before and after. She said, hash on both. Lobby cam caught the throw. Hood up, left-handed. Shoes with a flare at the heel, cheap brand. Carmen slid the print into a sleeve. We'll send to Ross, she said. He likes shoes. Olivia opened the safe and set the deposit pouch inside like placing bread in a drawer. We still teach at 4, she said. With the door, Marcus said. With the door, she agreed. They stood in the lobby a moment longer. 4 people and a residue of flame. The diode above them blinked as if agreeing to remember. Outside, the wet sidewalk reflected the gym's sign backward, letters wavering like a witness unsure on cross. 8. Carmen told Marcus, as if food solved law. She handed him a granola bar that needed branding help. He peeled the wrapper like lining a page. Peppermint wouldn't fix this one. He ate anyway. His phone buzzed. He looked. Nia, I'm fine. Save me a story. He wrote back, I'll bring 2. She replied with the candy emoji and a light bulb. Future and sugar, holding hands. Cole's laugh floated back from the sidewalk. He wasn't laughing with someone. He was laughing at his phone, the way men do when they get a message that says, the universe still knows their name. He turned the screen so the sponsor rep could see. The rep's mouth tightened into a line you could draw with a ruler. Take control or be replaced. Cole read. He read it again, softer. The words didn't change. The diode blinked and blinked, indifferent to career advice, faithful only to light. The envelope was thick enough to be proud of itself. A courier slid it across the front desk. Pen ready. Theo signed, date and time underlined, and set the packet beside the evidence integrity statement like 2 different gospels. Service of process, the courier said, already turning for the door. Carmen arrived as if the envelope had summoned her. She lifted the flap with a nail, skimmed the caption, and let air out of her nose. Superior Court, she said. Ricain Fau. Hail et al. Olivia raised an eyebrow. All of us. Carmen read counts as if calling bingo. Defamation per se. Intentional interference. Misappropriation of IP. Injunctive relief. She flipped a page. They want a gag order. And the raw footage. Lena set a pelican case on the counter with a gentleness that was not fear. They can want both, she said. Physics disagrees. Marcus stood slightly behind them, palms powdered still. From last night's extinguisher, eyes on the taped crack in the door frame that human hands hadn't sanded yet. What now? He asked. Now we breathe, Carmen said. Then we file. She thumped the packet twice on the counter to square it. Click without metal. Conference room B at City Legal smelled like carpet that had seen budget meetings and lost. A digital clock glared red over the door. A constant witness. Carmen spread the complaint, a blank answer form, and a draft, special motion to strike. On her yellow pad, she wrote anti-slap in letters big enough to fight. First hearing is on the TRO, she said. They'll ask to shut you up and pry our media. Can they? Olivia asked. Sometimes courts mistake noise for harm. Carmen said, so we show harm belongs to lies. Lena opened her air-gapped laptop, slid in the secondary DUP0916 card, and generated the hash again. Fingers finding the command like a hymn. The SHA-256 string appeared indifferent and gorgeous. We'll attach the checksum, Lena said. Along with DVR creation time, we'll also include the platform's header dump. Theo flipped through a binder labeled Devis Inventory and landed on Cam Lobby SN 3F-9094. He read the serial aloud. Carmen wrote it onto Exhibit B. Ink sounded soft on cheap paper. "Also this," Lena said, pulling a printout. "Streamer overlay headers. Their live flag is a cosmetic. Start time was 4. Centurar. 17 p.m. DVR created 4. Arshitsi. 51 p.m. Delta 426. Carmen said, satisfied. "I love numbers that refuse spin." Marcus leaned forward. "What do they want with the raw?" "Control," Carmen said. "If they can own the real, they can rent the truth." He nodded once. Peppermint unwrapped with a crinkle. The smell cut the room's stale temperature. His jaw slowed into the habit that had kept him out of fights that weren't worth their receipts. "Cole will testify," Carmen added. "He'll speak about brand harm and trauma to students. Sponsor will nod." Olivia looked up at the clock. "We'll testify about consent," she said. "Ask. Agree. Thank." "Exactly," Carmen said. "And we'll keep it short, judge like noons." She stamped "Received" on a cover letter with the court's filing window time already penciled in. The stamp thudded. Official and bored, miles of identical thuds, had built thin justice. By noon, Cole went live again. A boxy conference room behind him, a flag in the corner, like a semiotic crutch. "We value community," he said. "We uplift. We do not smear." He smoothed a page, stared into the lens, as if it were a person. "Legal action is not vengeance. It is order." The sponsor rep hovered like good lighting. "Comment pourd?" Sue him into the ground. "Protect the dojo." "Janitor is a liar." A few said show the diode and were promptly buried. Carmen watched with the sound off. "He's not talking to a judge," she said. "He's talking to a checkbook." Theo slid her a manila folder. "This came from the platform," he said. "Their counsel wants a call. They used the word escalation." End quote. Carmen smiled without showing teeth. "Let's save them from adverbs." She dialed, put the phone on speaker. "This is Winslow," she said. "We filed a DMCA and a preservation notice. Your creator's live is materially misleading. Please don't pretend expertise in physics." On the other end, a man with a polished voice said he understood their concern. He did not say he agreed. He asked for time to investigate. He promised nothing and acknowledged everything. "Attach this to your conscience," Carmen said. "We will seek fees." He sighed the way people sigh when policy meets facts. "Understood," he said, which in corporate meant "we noticed your teeth." Rain returned with its small drummer hand, tapping the window at the front of the gym like a polite protester. Parents came at odd times, whispering in the doorway, reading the hash page with eyebrows. Olivia greeted each with the steadiness of a nurse closing curtains. Lena worked at the side desk, drawing a timeline in 4 colors: DVR in blue, platform in green, press in orange, law in black. The lines crossed where lies had to step over truth. She liked the geometry. It felt like winning with rulers. Theo assembled a small hearing kit: 2 pens, 1 backup, paper clips, sticky flags, tissues in case somebody cried and somebody else needed proof that they had. Marcus mopped near the lockers. Clean water sliding under the bench. Gray. Returning to gray. The racket head of the mop glided with unjudging grace. His back found the old rhythm that assigned meaning to motion. A patrol car idled out front. Officer logged his own minutes into a form that reeked of gasoline and duty. The arson investigator had left earlier with the rag, the bottle, and a promise to listen to the lab like a priest listens to a bell. Carmen approached Marcus. "You'll have to be in the room," she said. "They'll want to see the man they named." "I'll be there," he said. "I'll do the talking," she said. "I'll do the breathing," he said. She almost smiled. "That wins more cases than we admit." The hearing courtroom was a cube with a high ceiling that made words lonelier. Wood paneling tried to be moral. The court reporter warmed her machine with a test sentence, the quick brown fox. She looked like she had heard too many lies, and saved them anyway. Cole sat at plaintiff's table, tie the color of ambition. His attorney, young and lacquered, arranged binders like a skyline. The sponsor rep leaned into the back row, whispering into his phone with his palm barely covering betrayal. Carmen placed the Pelican case at counsel table and popped both latches. Click, click. The sound drew 3 heads, the way a gun slide does in movies, less dangerous, more final. On calendar, Riker versus Hale, the clerk intoned. The judge entered with the gait of a man who'd learned to sleep 4 hours and call it luxury. He offered a nod to the room that was not an invitation. Plaintiff, he said. Cole's attorney stood. Your Honor, our brand has suffered irreparable harm. He began. Defendants published false allegations constituting defamation per se, and misappropriated our client's proprietary training footage. We seek a temporary restraining order to prevent further dissemination. Evidence, the judge asked, uninterested in adjectives. We have the contested clip, the attorney said, labeled live. Carmen rose. Your Honor, we object to the characterization. We also have the original lobby footage, its checksum, and the device's serial. We'll show the court that the plaintiff's live was pre-rendered by 4 minutes and 26 seconds. The judge looked at his clock, then at the court reporter. Exhibits will be marked, he said. A through. How ambitious are we? Carmen didn't smile. Through G should do it. The clerk took the SD mirror in a sealed bag, announced the time, initialed the tape. The court reporter's keys chattered like rain against tin. Carmen spoke with verbs. We extracted the card, sealed it, generated hashes on an air-gapped machine. We compared platform header timestamps to DVR creation. The delta is 426. The overlay live is false. Cole's attorney tried a smile that had passed the bar. Even if true, he said, no malice. Carmen slid a printout across to the clerk. Plaintiff's sponsor email, she said. The subject line reads, take control or be replaced. Mike Hemmer. Olivia sat straight, hands folded. Lena watched the judge's pen. Theo counted breaths between objections. Marcus watched nothing. He listened to spaces between words, the way people tell truth by omission. The judge lifted Exhibit C. What is this? He asked. Chain of custody register. Carmen said. Signatures. Times. Device IDs. He nodded once. To Cole's attorney. Do you challenge the integrity? The young man adjusted his tie and chose a future. We reserve the right, he said. That's not a challenge, the judge said. He turned back to Carmen. On the request for restraint, he said, the court will not gag evidence-driven speech. On raw footage, access is denied absent consent. Plaintiff may pursue discovery in the usual manner. Cole's jaw moved like he'd swallowed a cube of ice. The sponsor rep stared at the ceiling tile as if it were a door. We will set a briefing schedule on the special motion, the judge added, glancing at Carmen's pad. Anti-slap. I see you. Carmen inclined her head. We only brought nouns, she said. The gavel tap was modest. The sound lived too long in the high room. Court adjourned. The court reporter covered her machine like a sleeping pet. Cole turned as they packed. This isn't over, he said, more to himself than them. It rarely is, Carmen said, latching the case. Click. Rain held steady outside, droplets stitching the steps into a slick. Olivia opened the umbrella over them. It made a small room that moved when they did. Theo exhaled like a man who had been handed back his wallet. Lena tucked the exhibits into a messenger bag like putting kids to bed. Marcus stood under the courthouse overhang, watching people pass in coats the color of apology. He rolled a peppermint on his tongue until the cold reached behind his eyes. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost let it go. He read the text and didn't move. He told us to crop the red light. Evan. He stared at the words until they made a shape. Another buzz. A second message. I have the emails. Evan Page chose a diner that pretended it hadn't changed in 30 years. Chrome trim. Vinyl stools with splits repaired by clear tape. A jukebox that worked when it felt like it. He sat in the last booth, back to the wall. Hoodie up though the room was warm. He kept touching the pocket where the drive was. The motion looked like a tick. It was a lifeline. Carmen slid into the bench across from him, dropped a legal pad, and didn't touch the pen. Olivia took the end seat, eyes calm, hands on a paper cup. Marcus stood a step off the aisle, then sat when Evan flinched at his height. "You're late," Evan said, then winced at himself. "Sorry. I'm sorry. You texted." Carmen said, "We came." A waitress poured coffee and left the pot. Her perfume was talc and patience. Rain tapped the windows in small arguments. Evan wrapped both hands around his mug and burned his thumbs like penance. "I keep thinking I'll grow a spine," he said. "Low. Turns out it's a rental." Carmen waited. "Silence is a tool if you don't mind being disliked." Evan pulled the drive and set it in the center of the table on a napkin. Cheap plastic. Blue. LED. It looked like everything and nothing. "Emails," he said. "From the sponsor guy to Cole, and from Cole to us. Subject lines. Control the optics. Label as live. Crop the diode." He swallowed. "I exported. Amel with headers. Screenshots too. You'll want both." Olivia slid a small zipper pouch across the formica. A tamper bag. A Sharpie. Nitrile gloves. Evan looked at the kit like it might bite. "Handle it how you need," he said. "I brought a second one in case I—" He trailed off. "Change your mind," Carmen finished. He nodded without pride. Marcus took a peppermint from his pocket and set it beside the drive. "For later," he said. "Or now." Evan cracked a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I used to steal these from the front desk, back when I thought I was funny." "Funny is expensive," Marcus said. Carmen pulled on gloves. She read the time off her watch, then said it aloud. 12:41 p.m. "Transfer meeting. Sonny's Diner, booth 7, she said. She wrote it on the napkin and on her pad. "Witness present. Ow. M.H. She looked to Evan. "Spelling your name for the record." "Evan Page," he said, "like it sounds. Any NDAs?" Carmen asked. "Standard," he said, "but not for crimes. They don't get to own those." She nodded. She slipped the drive into the bag, pressed the adhesive, and signed across the seam. Olivia countersigned. The bag crinkled a little. "The sound private." The waitress reappeared with pie and sympathy. "Long faces," she said lightly. "You want the good forks or the regular ones?" "Good," Olivia said, as if that were policy. Evan tried to eat. The fork scraped the plate wrong. He dropped it and stared at his hands like they'd betrayed him. He said, "No one would care," he said. "That live is a feeling, not a fact." "Who said?" Carmen asked. "Cole," he said, after the sponsor man said, "We need a narrative that moves." "Indict names," Carmen said. Evan spoke them. She wrote with block letters and no flourish. "Why you?" Olivia asked. "Gentle. Why bring this now?" Evan looked at Marcus like a man approaching a cliff he'd built himself. "Because the wrong person is paying," he said. "Because the bottle at your door could have been worse. Because I told myself I was just editing, not deciding. Turns out, same thing." He flinched as the diner door jingled. Two contractors came in, boots, leaving primary colored footprints on tile. No one looked at Evan. He looked anyway. Cole called last night, he said, voice dropping. He offered to put me on a different project. More money. Said the internet forgets things faster than churches do. He rubbed his face. Then he said, if I talk, the sponsor would sue me into a haircut. Will they? Olivia asked. Maybe. He said. They love to make examples, but they hate discovery more. Carmen lifted the bag drive and set it back down like a gavel with manners. You'll need to sign an affidavit, she said. We'll keep it narrow. Authenticity of emails. Chain from your inbox to this device. Knowledge of directives. No adjectives. Okay, he said. It sounded like a dare he wasn't sure he could win. After that, Carmen went on. They may reach out to clarify. You'll refer them to me. If they threaten you, you'll record it. If they offer you anything, you'll ask them to put it in writing. Evan laughed once. Thin. They don't write the juicy parts, he said. They text. Carmen said. Screenshots. Screenshot well. The LED on the drive glowed through the plastic like a lazy heartbeat. Rain slowed, then stopped. The diner hummed with the sound of machines that weren't new enough to be quiet. Marcus peeled the peppermint and pushed it toward Evan again. Now, he said. Evan unwrapped it. The smell cut through coffee and fryer oil. He put the candy on his tongue, closed his eyes, and breathed like someone learning a count. The clack of pool balls carried from the back room. A small storm that didn't touch them. You going to testify? Evan asked. Eyes still closed. If asked, Marcus said, you don't even sound mad. Evan said, how? I'm tired. Marcus said, and I like winning more than yelling. Evan opened his eyes. I don't know if this makes me good. He said, it makes you useful? Carmen said, good is extra. He nodded. He reached for the check, but Olivia already had it. We'll pretend you bought it on your taxes, she said. Call it charity. He smiled for real, quick and unpracticed. You people don't talk like coaches, he said. We document, Marcus said. Back at the gym, Lena had drafted a one-page procedure for external evidence intake. She printed it and taped it next to the media viewing protocol, the paper edges aligning with a care that looked like affection. Theo lined up 3 pens and a date stamp. The stamp misfired. He hit it again. The second impression was crisp. The first an echo underneath a metaphor too on the nose to say out loud. Carmen logged the drive. USB-E. Page email. Archive 12. Sushi. Lena cloned it to the air-gapped. Generated hashes on both. Then compared. Match. She printed 2 sheets, signed the margins, and slid them into sleeves. Olivia put the original in the safe, spun the dial, until the tumblers understood who owned whom. Click. Sarah showed up with a charger, and a look that meant she'd brought more than electricity. I cut together the whole presser, she said. Not for upload, just for notes. The sponsor breathed through his mouth every time someone said diode. You can time it. Theo did, because Theo times things when offered. 7 out of 11, he said. He exhaled on crop. Carmen held up a palm. No adjectives. She reminded the room that wasn't listening. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She let it buzz a second time, then answered. Winslow, she said. A man cleared his throat into authority. This is counsel for the sponsor, he said. We'd like to discuss an amicable resolution. Amicable is a vowel choice, Carmen said. We're accepting nouns. Your client is escalating, he said. Publicity helps no one. Publicity helps the public, she said. What do you want? A mutual stand down, he said. No further statements, no further filings. Return to status quo, ante. Carmen translated, bored. Delete the clip. Retract the live. Admit nothing. Something like that, he said. Discovery is going to be a party, she said. Bring snacks. He paused. then dropped his pitch half an inch. "You should know," he said. "Our internal review found no directive to falsify." She looked at the safe. "Then you should broaden your review," she said, and hung up. Evan texted. "He's calling me," Carmen replied. Record. "Ask for email. No improvisation." A bubble appeared. Then a screenshot. "Keep your head down, kid. People who cross brands get run over." Another bubble. "Let me help you land elsewhere. Quietly." Carmen forwarded both to herself and mailed them to 3 places she didn't say out loud. Lena sketched a new box on her timeline. Rital. She added a thin red line out to the margin. "Bully line," she said, and circled it once. Marcus stood by the door, watching the rainless street. The scorch mark had been sanded to a pale memory. Fresh paint sat in a tray like a decision. He rolled the edge of a small roller through it, made a clean stripe, then another. The mark disappeared under the new, like a secret under polite conversation. Olivia set a flyer in the window. "Community meeting Saturday transparency practices." Beneath it, smaller, "Ask, agree, thank." Parents stopped to read. One tapped the glass and mouthed, "Thank you." The diode above them blinked red in the reflection on the pane. "Watching. Patient." Carmen's email chimmed. Subject: "Notice, City Ethics Commission." She opened, scanned, smiled with only one corner of her mouth. "They want us," she said. "Formal hearing." Theo made a small sound. "Half victory, half fear." "When?" Olivia asked. "Next Thursday," Carmen said. 2 p.m. Room 312. "Room with microphones," Lena said. "And rules," Carmen said. Evan stood at the doorway, hoodie darker from the drizzle. He had walked over without asking permission from whatever fear had been renting his spine. He held up his phone with a text displayed, sender name half cut by his thumb. "He tried to buy me quiet," Evan said. "Then he called me family. Family doesn't need a check." Marcus said. Eva nodded. He looked smaller and somehow taller. "Do I go to the hearing?" he asked. "Yes," Carmen said. "If you're ready?" "What if I'm not?" he asked. "Come anyway," Olivia said. "Read what you wrote. Breathe in between." Lena handed him a printed page with peppermint typed at the top and nothing under it. He laughed in spite of himself. "It's the whole program," she said. "We're minimalists." He tucked the page in his pocket like a talisman. "I'll be here," he said. Carmen locked the day's evidence in the safe. The latch settled with that small, satisfying closure you get when something ends correctly, without ending at all. Click. Evening slid along the sidewalk. Streetlights woke one at a time. The gym smelled faintly of fresh paint and old sweat, and someone's apple shampoo. Sarah sat on the floor by the front desk, splicing a timeline with headphones askew, her mouth moving as she counted beats no one else heard. Evan stood at the threshold and hesitated. Marcus stepped beside him, shoulder to shoulder, both men looking out at the street that had tried to teach them alternate lessons. "You good?" Marcus asked. "No," Evan said. "But better." Marcus nodded. "We'll take better." They watched a bus shudder past, windows filming small domestic scenes. The diode blinked in the reflection like a lighthouse too stubborn to retire. Somewhere upstairs a child laughed. Someone else swore softly at a shoelace. Life ran its hands under the tap and came back for more. "Thursday," Evan said. "Thursday," Carmen said behind them, and the gym, built for strikes and falls, became a waiting room for the kind of fight you don't see on a mat. Room 312 felt colder than the hallway, as if the air had been filtered through caution. Fluorescent bars hummed. A metal clock high on the wall ticked like a small, stubborn animal. Microphones waited on thin stems, red rings dark, power withheld until the right moment. Rows of chairs filled with a crowd that preferred whispering to silence. Parents clutched tote bags, Two reporters shared a power strip like a peace treaty. At the front, a long days. 5 commissioners. Nameplates, neat. Water glasses, sweating into coasters, stamped City Ethics. Carmen set the Pelican case on the table nearest the lectern. She ran her thumb along each latch and left it closed. Olivia stacked 3 folders, timeline, policy, sign in, and kept her palm on them as if calming a dog. Lena opened a notebook to a page of squares and arrows and left a capped pen diagonally across the margin. Marcus stood slightly back, jacket plain, posture uninteresting by design. A peppermint rested in his pocket like a compass. Cole sat a few rows away with counsel. His tie was the color of victory speeches. The sponsor rep chose the aisle, a seat where leaving looked like strategy, not flight. Evan hovered in the last row, hoodie down, hair combed hard to prove he had tried. A clerk plugged in the microphones. The red rings woke one by one. Small Diodis blooming. The sound system breathed, and then held its breath. "All right," the chair said, settling glasses down, adjusting a stack of agenda sheets. "We're here on item 4B, complaint regarding the presentation and alteration of athletic training footage and subsequent community impact. Parties, please introduce yourselves for the record." Carmen Winslow, counsel, Carmen said, with Miss Olivia Ward, proprietor, Ms. Lena Park, systems, Mr. Marcus Hale, staff, counsel for Mr. Riker. Cole's attorney said. He gestured with a tight wrist. Coach Riker present, sponsor representative present. Names became minutes. The chair nodded. "We value brevity," she said, eyeing the room's capacity for drama. "Counsel, you may proceed." Carmen didn't clear her throat. She never did. "This isn't a fight about feelings," she said. "It's a record about records." She popped the Pelican latches. Click, click. The sound barely carried, and somehow reached the back row. She lifted a tamper bag, labeled bold. Lobby SD primary pulled 09. Sit. She angled it so the bench could see the seal and the signatures, then set it on the table, as if placing a brick where a wall might stand. She passed up a mirror copy for viewing. "We'll start with chain of custody," she said. "Ms. Park." Lena adjusted the gooseneck mic. Baseline nerves, smoothing as her hands found familiar knobs on unfamiliar furniture. "We extracted the card from the recorder at 9:14 a.m. As recorded," she said, voice even. "We sealed the primary, duplicated to a second card on an air-gapped laptop, and generated SHA-256 checksums for both." She slid 2 sheets to the clerk. The clerk marked them with a rubber stamp that thudded like a polite door closing. "And the stream?" a commissioner asked, squinting. "We captured platform headers indicating a live broadcast," Lena said, "but the encode start time precedes the stream flag by 4 minutes, 26 seconds. She tapped a second printout. Side-by-side timestamps. "This here is the delta, in UTC and local." The chair leaned toward the page, read, and nodded as if a map had matched the ground under her shoes. Cole's counsel rose half a centimeter. "With respect," he said, tone shaved smooth. "Platform architecture is complex. Live is a term of art. Art that sells," Olivia murmured. "Not into a mic." Carmen slid another exhibit forward. "Email to Platform Council," she said. "Preservation notice acknowledged. We can quibble semantics later. Today's about whether a community was misled on purpose." The chair looked down the line. "We'll take witness statements," she said. 2 minutes each. Ms. Ward. Olivia stood with the stiff grace of someone used to bearing what rooms place on her. "We operate on consent," she said. "Ask. Agree. Thank." We post that on our door. We sign it with our names. We expect it back. She described policy without adjectives. Forms, sign-in sheets, clear pages taped to glass. She held up a copy of media viewing protocol until someone from the dais gestured a page turn, and she placed it in the clerk's tray. She didn't look at Cole. She didn't need to. Cole's counsel raised a hand. Objection to rhetoric, he said. Though nothing had flamed, the chair blinked once. Overruled, she said. Mr. Hale. Marcus stepped to the lectern. The mic smelled faintly of lemon and old dust. His hands rested on the wood like he'd agreed to hold something up. I asked him to ask, he said. He didn't. Silence pressed in. Pleased. The clerk's keyboard paused as if to mark the line. No more, the chair asked, almost surprised. It's enough, Marcus said, and stepped back. Cole's counsel stood with a smile that misjudged the room. Coach Riker regrets any misunderstanding, he said smoothly. He is committed to safety, instruction, and brand integrity. Please don't say brand, one commissioner muttered. Cole's voice came without asking permission. We don't target anyone, he said into his mic, volume too hot, feedback flirting with the edges. We build people. The clip got out before context could. Was it live? Another commissioner asked. He glanced at his attorney. Live is a term of art. The commissioner finished. Tired. Understood. The sponsor rep leaned to his own mic. Red ring blooming. We are here for youth development, he said. We support coaches who raise standards. Carmen reached for a paper without looking. Emails, she said, from your domain to Mr. Riker and staff. Subject lines instruct labeling as live and cropping the recording indicator. Cole's attorney objected out of muscle memory. Foundation. Authenticity will be supported, Carmen said. Witness present. The chair lifted a hand. We'll hear the witness, she said. Evan stood like a person walking into water he hadn't checked for depth. His hoodie looked suddenly out of place under the light. He pushed it back with the back of his wrist and set both palms on the lectern as if it might tow him. Name, affiliation. The chair prompted. Evan Page, he said. Freelance editor, contracted on and off for Mr. Riker's channel and the sponsor. Your statement, she said. He swallowed. I was told to crop out the red light, he said. I was told to label the render as live. He looked down at his hands, then forced himself back to the dais. I did those things. I'm here because I was wrong. Who told you? A commissioner asked. Coach Riker, he said. And the sponsor rep, in separate emails. Cole's chair creaked. The sponsor rep didn't move at all. Emails are in Exhibit F, Carmen said. Native format available. Headers intact. Cole's counsel leaned in. We object to any implication of criminal conduct, he said quickly. Marketing decisions are not. The chair held up a palm. This isn't a criminal forum, she said. It's an ethics commission. We're allergic to euphemism. She turned to Evan. Were you paid extra to make those edits? Evan blinked. No, he said. I was told I'd get more hours if the numbers rose. Did the numbers rise? Another asked. Traffic spiked, he said. So did comments that got people hurt? He gestured toward the back of the room, as if the hallway outside could answer. A bottle hit their door, he said softly. I know correlation isn't causation. I know that, but it's something. The chair glanced at the investigator from Fire, who had slipped in and taken a back row seat. The woman lifted a small folder an inch. The commissioners became still in their chairs in the particular way of people rearranging hierarchy in their heads. Cole's counsel put a hand on his client's forearm. It didn't land. Cole leaned toward the mic again. We never intended harm, he said. We intended a message about discipline. Message received, Carmen said under her breath. The mic didn't catch it. Marcus heard. The chair flipped a page on the agenda paper against paper, whisper thin. We have what we need to deliberate on the ethics complaint, she said. Before we break, you, she nodded at Carmen, used the phrase, native format available, chain of custody. Lena slid forward a slim folder, log of extraction, seals, hash values, signatories, she said. We can host a supervised viewing. The sponsor rep's knuckles went white along the edge of his chair. He leaned to his counsel, whispering like a man trying not to fog a mirror. The chair looked down the dais. Any final remarks before we recess? Carmen gestured once toward the glass wall at the side of the room, where the hallway reflected the dais back at itself. Just this, she said. We don't fight. We verify. No one applauded. Some rooms don't tolerate applause. They convert it into weight. The chair capped her pen. We'll take this under advisement, she said. 10 minutes. She struck the gavel once. The sound was contained, a small hammer in a padded room. Chairs scraped the floor. The red rings went dark. Diodes. Sleeping. Mics, suddenly ordinary stem. Cole turned in his seat to the sponsor rep. The rep dipped his head an inch small. Sharp. A command delivered in shorthand. Cole's mouth twitched, indecision moving across it like shadow. Avensat. Hands. Fists now. Peppermint paper. Crinkling in his palm where he'd kept it all the while. He unfolded it. The smell cut through floor wax and old coats. Lena looked at her timeline and added a square labeled hearing with a thin black border. Theo stared at the ceiling duct and listened to it tick as it cooled. Counting to 4, holding for 4, letting go. Marcus stood and looked at the door. Beyond it, the hallway shone like a frame around an empty picture. The clock ticked. The room exhaled. We'll deliberate, the chair had said. The red rings stayed dark. The notice slid across feeds just after sunset. White text on a black card. Coach Riker live. The truth. Phones lit like a perimeter. The city's windows answered with their own small lanterns. Inside the gym, the lights were low. Lena sat at the side desk with 2 laptops open, one air gap, one on a hard line that hummed softly. A terminal blinked in a square of black. A script waiting for an event to prove itself. Theo taped a fresh ask-agree thank sheet to the glass, smoothing the corners twice, as if that made paper braver. Olivia checked the lock on the safe and laid a palm on the metal like a benediction. Marcus stood in the doorway between lobby and mat, jacket on. He'd taken the last class early, sent kids home with jokes and reminders to hydrate. Now the room smelled of vinyl and lemon and the memory of heat. He rolled a peppermint between forefinger and thumb, not ready to unwrap it. A red diode blinked above, steady as a pulse. Evans sat on a folding chair near the wall, hoodie unzipped, eyes on the floor, his phone face down on his thigh, screen bright through the fabric. He hadn't decided whether to watch. Lena didn't look up. If he flips the live flag, we'll see it, she said. If he pushes a we'll see that, too. Olivia nodded. We don't heckle, she said. We log. At 7, the thumbnail became a window. Cole appeared in a tight shot. Good lighting. Clean backdrop. The flag from his conference room replaced with a shelf of trophies that gleamed like teeth. He smiled into the lens with a practiced grief. Good evening, he said. I owe you clarity. Chat poured like rain down a windshield. Finally, coach speak. Sue the liars. Show the clip. A few diode, scrolled like tiny prophets, and vanished under the flood. People have said a lot this week, he went on, voice pitched to bedside, about me, about my work, about a moment that got out of hand. Behind Lena's shoulder, the terminal flashed a line. Stream. Start. Shizhou. Ling Ling. 7Z. Another line stacked beneath. Source declare. File. Lena leaned closer. He loaded media. She said, "Calm, not camera." Cole lifted a remote just out of frame. "Let's watch together," he said. And the screen cut to a full bleed of the familiar gym. Cropped tight, banner in the corner, live, audio warm and late. Lena's script chirped once, then began writing. On the second monitor, a checksum block crawled, comparing the incoming segment to a reference Lena had prepared from the DVR mirror. She'd named the script Siren, not because it screamed, but because it steered, passing off a render. She murmured, "Same asset as the upload. Overlay unchanged." Marcus didn't move. On Cole's stream, a voiceover began. Cole, gentle, narrating himself into innocence. "What you see here is a teaching frame," he said. "No strike, no attack." Chat cheered. Chat doubted. Chat demanded a slow-mo, received a slow-mo. Cole paused the frame where his body didn't meet Marcus's, thumb circling an empty space on his graphic tablet in the upper corner. The way surgeons draw lines before a cut, Lena's script chimed a second time, louder. Segment 004. Checksum mismatch, blinked in white on black. Then, overlay. Flag. Live. Cosmetic. A third line. Delta. Detected. Ling Ling. Ling C. Arshaluk. She didn't smile. "He's streaming the pre," she said. "Our hash says so. Watch the header. On Quay." The player hiccuped. A half-second freeze. Then a hiccup again, like a breath that found a stone. The chat stuttered with question marks. Cole blinked and looked off camera, the way men do when a producer stops being a friend. Lena toggled a switch she had prepped earlier, an integration with the platform's community fact panel for live metadata claims. She fed it the header discrepancy and the hash pair. The system accepted the submission with bureaucratic indifference. A thin gray bar bloomed under Cole's stream with a sentence in small text. "Some users report this stream displays previously recorded content." Theo inhaled. "A little too loud." Olivia placed 2 fingers on the counter, like pressing a pulse into rhythm. Evan lifted his phone and turned it over in his hand. On screen. Cole recovered. "Looks like we're having technical weather," he said, a chalk smile, creasing wrong. He tapped his remote. The stream jumped back a half-second, then forward, then stayed. Lena's script blinked again. Integrity. Signal sent. She didn't do anything else. The room listened to electricity. Chat began to split loyalty versus math. "Stop messing with him." Ash don't Lee. "Why does live pause?" Emojis tried to make it a party. Cole pressed on. "The important thing is intent," he said. "I've given my life to discipline, to building people. I don't tear anyone down." A new window slid into the stream. Picture in picture, his face in the corner while the clip rolled. The timing of his voice didn't match the motion. Lena wrote lag in the margin of her pad, then crossed it out. "No," she said. "Duct tape." The gray panel under the video gained a tiny arrow. "Click to learn more." Some did. Enough did that the chat started pasting the 4 minutes. 26 seconds. Someone liked the specificity and turned it into a chant. "S. Arshaluk. S. Arshaluk. S. Arshaluk." Cole's jaw changed shape by a degree. He kept smiling. He switched back to camera. "I have emails." "Two," he said, leaning closer. "Emails that show certain parties have been coordinating to slander me." Carmen, watching from her office at home, texted the group thread. "He bluffs. Let him." Lena didn't look at her phone. Olivia did. Once, then set it face down by the pen cup. Cole lifted a printout with highlighted lines. The camera cut to a close-up. The highlights were thick, the way people highlight when they want to seem certain. He read a sentence about controlling optics. He didn't read the next line. Somebody in chat did. From the screenshot already circulating, label as live, crop the diode. Evan made a sound like a door finding a latch. He stood, sat, stood again. This is where he calls me out, he said. On screen, Cole smiled into the lens like making eye contact with a person he'd wronged. There are individuals, he said carefully, who are trying to make names for themselves by attacking those who provide structure. He didn't say a name. He let the implication be a shape with the lights off. Lena's script pinged a final time. Segment, Nova check some mismatch. Then the player stuttered and threw a system overlay none of them had seen before. Playback interrupted integrity issue. Detected, the screen grayed, then dropped to just Cole's face. He froze. The smile stayed on. Like a sticker, chat erupted. What just happened? Lol caught. Platform cucked him. No. He blinked slowly. The sponsor rep was off camera somewhere. Moving. A shadow in a reflection on a trophy. Cole listened to a voice that no longer sounded like a friend. He tried the smile again, and it came out a different shape. You ever build something, he said, voice dropping, and watch a mob tear at it because they're bored? No one answered. Lena's terminal scrolled idle logs. The gray integrity panel now linked to a documentation page written by lawyers and engineers. Someone in chat pasted it and added, ouch. Cole glanced down, then back up. Fine, he said, and something broke in the syllable. He leaned forward until his face filled the frame, until the pores on his nose were confessional. They wanted numbers, he said. Sponsor wanted a story that moved. They said we were soft. They said attention is war, and I was losing. He laughed once, air and teeth, so I did what winners do. He adjusted. The chat slowed, the way a room slows when a joke reveals a basement under itself. I told the team to crop the light, he said. I told them to push it as live, because live gets grace. He waited for the flood of affirmation that had always followed. It didn't come. Did anyone get hurt? He continued, voice trying to regain the smoothness. No. Did a bottle fly? Maybe. That's not on me. Evan took a step toward the screen and stopped himself, as if distance could keep a person from falling. On the stream, the sponsor rep's hand entered the edge of the frame. A crisp cuff, a gesture low like a coach calls a play without the other bench seeing. Cole's eyes tracked it, then returned to the lens, and he made a decision that altered the geometry of the week. You want names? He said. You want the real. They told me to fix it, take control or be replaced. That's the email. That's the family. He said the rep's name. He said the domain. He said the meeting time. He said the cafe where they'd sat and the brand of coffee cups on the table. He said too much like a man who hasn't eaten all day and finds salt. The chat did what chat does when fed meat. It tore and archived. Screenshots flew. Somebody found the rep's conference photo and slapped the phrase term of art in impact font under it. It wasn't noble. It was inevitable. Cole sagged back. This is what you wanted, he said. Blood. The stream went black as if someone had found a plug and obeyed their instinct. The chat kept going for a while, momentum carrying, then slowed, then spun in circles. The integrity panel lingered like a waiter with the check. No one in the gym spoke first. The diode blinked. The HVAC breathed. A car hissed past outside on wet asphalt, the sound like a long yes. Evan sat down hard. He put his head in his hands and then laughed, quick and unbelieving. He said it. He said. He actually said it. Olivia let out a breath that had been holding her ribcage together. Hubris, she said. It saves on subpoenas. Lena closed the lid on the networked laptop, then opened it again and took a screenshot of the gray panel, because that was her religion. She wrote the time. She wrote the word mismatch in the corner and drew a small diode next to it. Without meaning to, Marcus unwrapped the peppermint and placed it under his tongue. The cold rose and cooled his eyes. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He reached for the light switch and didn't touch it yet. His phone buzzed. A message from the facilities company that gave him the extra hours on weekends. We're putting your shifts on hold until this resolves. Good luck. Another buzz. The community center. He cleaned after basketball on Fridays. We need to step back from controversy. We'll revisit next quarter. He stared at the two lines until they stacked like a verdict. Olivia saw him see it. We'll cover you, she said. Immediate. He shook his head once. We'll cover the floor, he said. Evan looked up. I'm sorry, he said. This isn't yours to carry alone, Marcus said. He placed the candy wrapper on the counter and smoothed it flat. Theo pulled a chair out from the wall and placed it near the desk for a person who might need to sit and didn't want to ask. No one sat in it. The gesture steadied the room. Carmen texted again. We don't have to prove self-destruction now. He filed it on camera. Lena replied with a single screenshot. Integrity panel plus timestamp. Carmen sent a check mark. And then, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Draft complaint. Amendment. Plus ethics submission. Sleep if possible. The lights in the gym stayed low. Outside, a siren threaded a few blocks away and kept going. Evan stood and wiped his hands on his jeans as if they were wet. What happens to him? He asked. System eats its wounded, Olivia said, then denies it has teeth. Lena shut down the terminal. The screen went black and caught the room in its reflection. The diodes blinked. Marcus's outline, Theo's taped corners, Evan halfway to the door, Olivia's hand on the safe. It looked like a family portrait the room wasn't ready to print. Marcus walked to the front and flipped the deadbolt to its resting place, just to feel the mechanism answer. Click. A small sound. Then quiet. He stood with his palm against the cool metal until his skin warmed it, and his thoughts slowed enough to file. He thought of a broken frame on a shelf and a smile split by a line of stress. Two truths. Always, he thought of clean water, pooled and reflecting a red dot that never got bored. He thought of the word lie and how it changes when you add a past tense to it. Evan was at the door, then in the doorway, then in the night. He turned back once. Thursday, he said, though it wasn't a question. Thursday, Marcus said. The room held its breath one more second, then let it go. The diode blinked. The peppermint cooled. The gym, built for blows, accepted another kind. 3 months later, the gym smelled like primer and citrus. Fresh paint flattened the scorch into rumor. The door frame wore a new coat that squeaked a little when it settled. Morning light came in clean. The lobby clock ticked with bureaucratic enthusiasm. A city sedan pulled to the curb. 2 auditors stepped out with clipboards and soft shoes, the kind they sell to people who stand all day. Their badges flashed at the glass laminate. Barcode. A faint rainbow. You only see if you look too long. Olivia met them with a folder and a smile that had learned math. Ward, she said, we have a room ready. The taller auditor sniffed the air as if truth has a scent. We'll need your logs, he said. Training, media, incident, device inventory, camera serials, key control. We'll need your time. The shorter one added, and the joke nearly worked. Lena wheeled out the Pelican cases like a paramedic with non-lethal gear. A rolling table waited inside the office, 2 laptops, one with a piece of blue tape that said air-gapped like a prayer. Theo had laid pens in parallel, 3 inches apart, and squared the corners on every stack until the room made sense. They signed in on a sheet labeled Audit Access. Names, time in. Reason, the stamp hit the line with pleasing finality. Lingzhou, 03 a.m. The ink smelled like a legal pad left in the sun. Chain of custody, the tall one said. Without looking up, Carmen slid a register across. Columns of initials marching like a quiet army. From extraction to storage to supervised viewing, she said. No adjectives. He scanned. He nodded once, without letting his face get involved. We'll verify, he said. They began at the door. Hingaplay. Lock alignment. The new plate shone. Marcus stood nearby, holding a screwdriver and a roll of blue tape, the way a man holds dignity after someone tries to knock it off a shelf. You, the janitor, the shorter one asked, scanning the staff list on the glass. Marcus Hale, he said. You were present for incident. The taller added, eye on a line where his own pen would land later. Yes, Marcus said. The shorter auditor tugged the latch with 2 fingers. This new, he asked, paid for with old, Olivia said. She didn't explain. He didn't ask. They worked methodically, camera positions, retention settings. The laminated ask agree. Thank pages that had been reprinted so often their corners had muscle memory. Lena laid out the transparency program like a kit. Every class recorded to a secure buffer, mirrored to a parent visible log, consent prompts in plain English and 2 other languages. A small diode. Nobody could crop without lying to a machine that didn't know mercy. Pilot runs clean, the tall auditor said, flipping to a page that had learned coffee stains by heart. We built a second set of eyes into the wall, Lena said. Users get read-only time codes. They don't control them, they read them. He looked at her with the mild surprise of a person finding competence where a report has warned him to expect chaos. Neat, he said, and the word felt like career praise. Evan slipped in through the side door, with a manila envelope tucked under his arm. He wore a button-down he hadn't asked permission from. His sneakers squeaked once, apologizing to the floor. Delivery, he said. Carmen checked her watch. You're on time, she said, and it meant more than a timestamp. He handed over the envelope. Inside, a plain USB in a fresh tamper bag and a signed affidavit in stout font, 2 pages. No adjectives. Header metadata printed below his name like proof of blood. Page source inbox to archive 09. 11 scratched across the seal in his hand. Genuine originals. He said, native. I wanted to keep a copy and then I didn't. Carmen signed the seam. Olivia countersigned. The bag made that small animal crinkle as it sealed. Chain begins again. Carmen said, welcome back to the record. Evan glanced at Marcus. You still hate peppermint? He asked. I don't hate it. Marcus said, I respect it. Evan laughed, quick and quiet, and something in his shoulders came down half an inch. A student wandered in, early, headguard dangling from one fist, mother behind him reading rules on the glass, like they were a promise. Theo bent to the kid's belt, tightened the knot until it sat like it belonged. Ask, he said. Agree. The kid nodded solemnly. Now think, Theo said, and the kid did, first to his mom, then to the room. Lloyd, Olivia told Lena, already did, Lena said, without looking at a keyboard. The tall auditor sat at the air-gapped laptop and watched Lena pull the mirror SD into a reader. SHA 256 sum marched out a string that could only be itself. He compared it to the binder printout and circled both with a pen that wasn't meant to circle joy. You filed the fee motion, he asked Carmen without tone. Judge said hearing, she said. Also referred the ethics file to licensing. He nodded. He didn't smile. The room did it for him. They moved to the mat. Fresh tape marked boundary lines. New scuffs wrote anonymous stories in arcs. The thermostat hummed a little harder to keep the air from getting above Ernest. "Where's Coach Riker?" the shorter auditor asked, reading a roster that kept a name and put a parenthesis around it. Olivia didn't wince. "Elsewhere," she said. "We kept some of his students, we lost some, we gained some." The tall auditor scribbled the sentence and left space under it as if the future would want to write more. "Where's the sponsor?" he asked. "Also elsewhere," Carmen said. "They discontinued support by press release." "Do you miss them?" he asked. Not unkindly. "We miss the kids who couldn't afford dues," Olivia said, but the room got safer. She checked herself. "That's an adjective. Take it down." She smiled. "We have scholarships now. Nobody told us to," Theo added, and that sounded like an offering. The auditors finished their checklists, initialed tiny boxes with tiny letters, then stood at the threshold to the lobby with a posture that meant decision. The tall one closed his folder. "Your records are clean," he said. "Your program is clear. We'll recommend adoption across similar facilities." "What about the Evan began?" Then stopped. The shorter auditor tapped his clipboard. "Other matters live in other rooms," he said, which was bureaucrat, for we're not blind. But this he gestured to the laminated pages, the safe, the laptop with tape. "This is how you stop fires that don't need hoses." They signed out, "Sure." 26 a.m. The stamp thunked like a small drum. The door closed behind them with a hush that sounded like a held breath, finding release. Quiet settled in the way good rooms let it. Dust motes did their slow parade through a shaft of light. The diode above the entrance blinked its patient red, reflected in the clean pane like twin witnesses. Marcus stood under it and rolled a peppermint between forefinger and thumb, listening to the building breathe. His phone vibrated once, no banner, just the haptic, a text from the janitorial company that had paused him. "We have openings again if you're interested." Below it, another from the community center. "Can you cover Friday nights? Kids miss your reminders." He stared at both for a beat, and then put the phone down without answering. The wrapper crinkled under his thumb. Silence earned the room. Nia's shoes squeaked faintly on the hallway tile before she appeared. She wore her school hoodie, and that sideways smile. That means she's running on 3 hours, and caffeine flavored like candy. She took in the clipboards, the cases, the way people were standing. "You passed?" she asked. "We audited," Olivia said. "We didn't fail." Nia grinned. "That's a pass." She moved to the window and checked herself in the glass, the way teenagers do before speeches. Her eyes found the diode's reflection and held it, red dot sitting neatly on her iris, like a sight line. She kept looking at it longer than she had to. "Looks like a planet," she said. "Keep it in your orbit," Marcus said. She turned. "You want me to speak at the meeting?" she asked. "I can say document without sounding like a robot now." "Say it like yourself," he said. "Then ask, then agree, then thank." "Poster child," she said. "Poster adult," he said. Lena closed the pelican lid and snapped the latches. Click, click. She wrote a line in her notebook and drew a small diode next to it, then crossed it out, then drew it again smaller. "We're at 85% payoff," she said, almost to herself. "The rest can be echoes." Evan leaned against the door frame and didn't flinch when the hinge clicked. "I heard they suspended his license," he said. "Interim. Pending." Carmen shrugged the way lawyers shrug when they refuse to jinx gravity. "Some rooms move slow," she said. "Some fall fast." "What about me?" he asked. "Not kidding. You wrote it down," she said. "You showed up. That's a career." He snorted. "That's a sentence." "They're not mutually exclusive," she said. Theo hung a new flyer by the sign-in sheet. "Transparency night open log, open floor." Beneath it, smaller, Bring your questions. Leave with time codes. The letters looked almost cheerful, black on white. No italics. No fear. A mother stepped in with a girl whose gi was too crisp to have known sweat. Do you have rules? The mother asked, eyes darting to the posts, the camera, the safe. Olivia gestured to the glass pages that had become their stained glass. We make them in public, she said. We follow them in private. The child looked up at Marcus with the expression, kids, save for bus drivers and janitors and people who know where keys live. Do I get a belt? She asked. He crouched. You get a knot, he said. Belt stays because you ask it to. She nodded, solemn as ceremony. He wrapped the belt around, pulled ends even, tied the square knot with fingers that knew the geometry of allegiance. The knot settled like a decision. The girl touched it with a small reverent tap, then bowed in all directions. At no one and everyone. Outside, a bus coughed to a stop. Tires hissed. Somewhere above them, a pipe pinged as hot water thought about its life. The diode blinked and kept blinking. Evan pushed off the frame. You need volunteers, he asked. I can carry cases or put pages in order. Theo handed him a clipboard before he could reconsider. You can initial too, he said, if you write like someone who respects paper. Evan took the pen. His letters arrived steady. He looked surprised at his own hand. Useful, he said, and the word lifted. Carmen checked the time. We owe the commission a progress report, she said. 2 pages, 5 exhibits, no sermons. Add a picture, Lena said, of a diode. 2 on the nose, Carmen said, and wrote exhibit photo corner anyway. They dispersed like competent weather, to the mat, to the desk, to the closet where new pads waited in plastic, and old ones remembered falls. Marcus lingered by the door, palm on the lock, feeling the metal warm under skin until the temperature belonged to him. He turned the deadbolt. It seated. Click. He didn't move his hand yet. He watched the diode's reflection sit, tiny and red, inside Nia's pupil. As she laughed at something Sarah said off-frame, he watched a mother sign a line and dot a date. He watched Evan's square stacks until corners matched corners. He watched Lena write numbers that would not argue with themselves tomorrow. A small breeze slipped under the door from traffic pressure and rustled the flyer by the glass. The sound was paper and air, and a promise you could mistake for nothing at all. No one applauded. The room remembered. The red light kept blinking. At its heart, this story is about the quiet power of truth, how it survives distortion, intimidation, and even silence. It reminds us that integrity isn't loud. It's the steady pulse beneath chaos, the red diode that keeps blinking even when others try to crop it out. In a world that rewards appearances and punishes honesty, standing up for what's right often means standing alone first. But as the old saying goes, gold fears no fire. When we walk through the heat of injustice with dignity intact, we don't come out smaller. We come out proven. The characters in this story discovered that breaking silence isn't rebellion. It's restoration. It's how we reclaim our place in a system that prefers obedience to truth. Every time someone chooses to speak, document, verify. Instead of turning away, the world shifts a fraction closer to fairness. And for anyone who's ever been dismissed, overlooked, or told their pain was just a misunderstanding, this tale is a hand on your shoulder, saying, you were right to notice, you were right to ask. The lesson isn't about victory in courtrooms or headlines, it's about inner reconciliation. Justice begins with the decision to see clearly, even when it costs comfort, because in the long run, you reap what you sow, and truth, once planted, grows through concrete. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below. Tell us what part resonated. or share your own moment of choosing honesty over fear. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful Laham, thought-provoking stories that remind us of what it means to be human. Until next time, may your days be calm, your conscience clear, and your heart steady in the face of noise.